In this presentation, we are going to learn about professional ethics and responsibility. Now let's have a look at all the definitions. Before we go into what professional ethics is, you should know what a profession is. It refers to an occupation which can be done only after acquiring specialized study. Training is also an important component here. For example, if you want to become a doctor, after the 4-year course, you have to do house surgency to gain hands-on experience. Then only you can become a full-fledged doctor. To take an example that is more relevant to commerce students, if you want to become a chartered accountant, you have to do articleship in an auditor's office before you can qualify yourself as an auditor. So, to conclude, profession is an occupation requiring some specialized study and training with the purpose of providing skilled services for a fee. To explain the last part of the definition, a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher, they do not stop with learning. They try to extend the services to the society for a specific fee. Next definition is about ethics. It refers to your sense of what is right or what is wrong. There are two types of ethics: personal ethics and professional ethics. Personal ethics defines who you are as a person. You derive this ethics from your parents, your friends, and family. Just listen to these statements. Suppose you say, I will always speak the truth. I will be friendly with everyone. I care for my elders. I will not hurt others. All these are contained in the examples that are given here: honesty, commitment, responsibility, etc. So, personal ethics is something that defines who you are as a person and are contained in the activities that you do in your everyday life. Moving on to what professional ethics is. It refers to how you behave and adhere to the rules in a professional setting. For example, when you work, you may want to be punctual. You may want to exhibit proper rules relating to, not exhibit, you might want to follow time management practices, or you're so close about certain values like no gossiping, or always exhibiting transparency in whatever you do, and also to safeguard the privacy of the office secrets that you get to know during the course of your employment. So, professional ethics refers to how you behave and safeguard in a professional environment. That is the ethics that you have to follow in a professional environment is the professional ethics. There are 9 characteristics of a professional. The first one is, as I told you earlier, you need to have specific knowledge in a specific field to become a professional. For example, a lawyer needs to know all about the law relating to whether he is a criminal lawyer or a civil lawyer. He needs to have complete knowledge about his area of expertise. Then only he can start his practice as a lawyer. And it demands training. Whatever profession we can think of, whether it is that of an auditor or a doctor or a lawyer, they need to get trained under a senior lawyer or a senior doctor before they start with their practice. The term membership here refers to associating themselves to one body which gives affiliation to the practicing professionals. For example, the Indian Medical Association gives license to the doctors to practice. All engineers come under an umbrella. They have a body for themselves. Similarly, lawyers and even auditors, they have their own association or body which lays down the rules and regulations and time to time gives an update to their professionals under them as to what is right or what is wrong, how they have to update themselves, and all other activities that are required for them to be up to date with their profession. So, the important characteristic of a professional here is they become the member of their affiliate body so that it enables them to have a continuous practice and extend their service to the society on the whole. Moving on to the service model. Even though these professionals charge a fee, the primary motive is to provide service to their clients. You can relate this to any professional examples that I gave you earlier holds good. And the code of ethics is nothing but the rules or the conduct that is expected of that particular professional. This code of ethics is also laid down by the affiliating body, and it goes without saying that all professionals are expected to follow these code of ethics. And once you gain knowledge, that is formal knowledge, and complete the training, you will be assured of a career in your respective field, because you become an expert in that particular field. The affiliate body gives you the license to carry on with your profession, and it is also expected out of the professional that they are really true in whatever activities they are pursuing. They are loyal to their profession, and also they are transparent in whatever they do. For example, an auditor is expected to audit the correct financial position of a company and certify that everything has been done transparently. And the next feature is that of instantaneous results. See, you go for a consultation with a lawyer, he will be able to give the best solution for your problem, because he possesses all the knowledge that is required or expected out of him. So you can always expect immediate solution for your problem when you contact a professional. And the last characteristic is that these professionals are expected to maintain the status and dignity of the position that they hold. It is because something that they do will harm the reputation of their entire fraternity. For example, if a teacher is not right or is not ethical in what he or she does, people tend to affix a label generally that teachers are bad. So it is up to the individual teacher to maintain the dignity of her profession. So these are the 6 characteristics of professional styles. As you can see on screen, it starts from ethical and moves on till intellectual. Let me explain each of these characteristics by taking a particular profession as an example. First, if you take the ethical characteristic, let me take the example of an auditor. What is encompassed in this ethical characteristic is the professional is expected not to misrepresent personal qualifications. See, if you take an auditor, he cannot fake his qualification. Only a person who has completed his entire course, who has done the articleship, qualifies to be an auditor. Suppose he misrepresents his personal qualification, then he is not fit to be an auditor. So a person wanting to practice as an auditor is expected to possess the basic required qualification. Secondly, he should be able to recognize professional biases, and he should base his action upon a sound rationale. The meaning of this is whatever he does should be based on a solid ground of knowledge. He cannot, he can try to improvise based on his own personal wisdom, but each and every action, it should be based on certain logics which stems from the theory that he has learnt. whether it is a scientific aspect or a non-scientific aspect, everything should be based on a certain body of knowledge. He cannot do anything irrationally. Thirdly, he is also expected to maintain confidentiality regarding professional matters. Obviously, an auditor who functions as an auditor for a company is expected to safeguard the matters relating to finance that he gets to know during the process of auditing. And he is also expected to deal honestly with others. So all these relates to the ethical characteristics. Moving on to altruistic. The term altruistic means being selfless. It's the opposite of being selfish. I think a classic example will be that of a teacher. A teacher is expected to behave unselfishly, in the sense the main work of a teacher is to share the knowledge that he or she possesses with his or her own students. So, being an altruistic teacher means to behave unselfishly. That should be the priority. Secondly, they have to show a positive attitude towards the students. Most of the time, the students look up at the teacher as a role model. So it is very important that the teacher exhibits a very positive attitude, so that that kind of characteristic moves on to the students as well. And the students should the teacher should also show respect for the students. Even if it is an idea that is emanating from the students, the teacher should be willing to learn from the students. So that is the meaning of showing respect for others. So altruistic on the whole refers to being unselfish. Third, responsibility. This characteristic will explain with the help of a lawyer. A lawyer is expected to be more accountable for his own actions. For example, suppose a person with no knowledge of law approaches the lawyer for some kind of litigation. The lawyer is expected to use his expertise to help the illiterate person to come out of the problem. So anything that he does, he should take responsibility for it, because he has only used his knowledge to solve the problem. So anything adverse that happens also, the lawyer should be able to take responsibility for his action. And he is also expected to deliver the results on time. The number of cases that are pending in our courts all over the country. To a certain extent, the legal system has to take responsibility for this. But as an individual lawyer, he should ensure that the justice is not delayed too much for his clients. Then he is also expected to follow through on his commitments. All professionals are expected to be more committed in what they do, more so a lawyer. So he has to keep up to his commitments so that his clients' interests are always maintained. And he also has to think before reacting. I think this is self-explanatory. Moving on to the next characteristic of being theoretical. I think doctor is a very good example for being theoretical. This is because a doctor is expected to present the theoretical foundation of ideas and actions. So whatever the doctor does in everyday life is based on what he has learned during his graduation. He is also expected to show appreciation for research and theory. In the sense, he needs to update about what is happening all over the world, so that he can serve the best interest of his patients. And he should be willing to contribute to the knowledge base. For example, during the course of his service, he gets to know something that is unique that the rest of the world does not know. He should be able to share this knowledge with the rest of the world. Then he should practice critical thinking. Critical thinking in the sense, he should be able to analyze the problem and try to find the best solution for the problem. Next characteristic is being committed. So I think I have to repeat the example of a doctor for commitment. So this requires a doctor to spend time beyond the call of duty. Why I have taken the example of doctor here, this is more relevant in today's context of this COVID pandemic spreading all over the world and causing havoc. You must have seen in the media how committed doctors are, and the entire world is looking up to the doctors for this disease to be contained. And we must have heard stories about these frontline health professionals all over the country working 24 hours, and they have sacrificed their own family for the well-being of the people who are falling sick. In spite of adverse circumstances, the meaning of adverse here is, in most of the cases, they might even lack the equipment to safeguard themselves. That is why I mentioned the word adverse circumstances here. So, unmindful of all these, day in and day out, they are slogging, fighting against time and fighting against the virus to safeguard how much ever they can the people who are falling sick. So there cannot be a better example to explain commitment than that of the doctors. So it's time that we realize the kind of service that these doctors are doing in a crisis situation when many of us are sitting in the comforts of our home. So I think no more explanation is required for commitment. Moving on to the last characteristic, an intellectual is one. I think I need not take a specific example of a professional here. It applies to all the examples that I've mentioned, that is doctor, lawyer, teacher, whoever it is. He is supposed to be an intellectual. How can he be an intellectual is by reading the current journals. Say each profession has got a certain set of journals where all the research publications are done. So it's up to the relevant professional to choose the relevant journal and update himself about what is happening currently in his or her field. And they have to keep up to date with the technical advances that are happening in their own field, and they also have to interact with colleagues to gain new knowledge and new perspectives. They have to participate in conferences, enroll in courses regularly to update their knowledge, and they have to strive towards self-improvement. Nobody can relax saying the knowledge that I have acquired is enough and I know everything. That kind of attitude will not help the professional to survive, and in the interest of their own clients, all the customers, it is the duty of the professional to update himself. Now moving on to the definition of professional ethics. It is the rules, norms or standards imposed on an employee in a company or as a member of a profession. I think earlier itself you must have heard about this term professional ethics. It was mentioned in one of the slides. To be more specific in this context, it refers to the norms. I'm repeating again, the norms, the standards, which are also called as code of ethics, which are imposed on an employee. The term imposed here means you don't have a choice. You have to follow these standards. Um, where do these ethics stem from is because of the fact that you are part of a profession or you are an employee of a company. When a professional starts his practice, it is normally governed by these four aspects: individual and positive morality, law, and professional ethics. Individual morality is nothing but your personal value system. A specific person might believe a specific behavior is correct. See, what is right for you may be wrong for some other person. This behavior is generally influenced by how a person was brought up. For example, if your parents have brought you as a person um, who can distinguish between what is right and what is wrong, or they have brought you in a way telling that doing this is wrong, then you start believing in that and you start behaving in that particular way. So this is what is called as individual morality. So uh, to sum up the whole thing, it is what you believe in a certain setting. Whereas positive morality is something that is considered as right to the society at a particular point of time. For example, in this pandemic situation, the society believes that staying at home is right. So this is what is called as positive morality. The third behavior that is governed by the norm is law. This law takes three forms. That is public law, private law, and formal law. But before I move on to explaining these three, we should know why we have these laws. In general, laws are enacted to protect the society. In other words, it prevents anarchy. Just imagine a situation where a society does not have any law to govern its citizens. Suppose an untoward accident happens on the road. Uh, one heavy vehicle is to be blamed, but there is no law to penalize that driver of the heavy vehicle. Can you imagine what will be the consequence of this? So apply this in all situations: civil, criminal, domestic affairs. You apply this in all type of settings. So law is something that provides an umbrella of protection for the society to safeguard themselves from criminal activities or other kind of illegal or immoral activities. If you take public law, um, it is also like a criminal law, and it is between the state and the individual. So anything that regulates the behavior of an individual with the state will be under the domain of public law. Private law refers to contractual law. See, as common students, you must have learned about business law, law of contract, its provisions. You have learned numerous acts under business law. So it defines the relationship between persons. For example, you are entering into a contract, X enters into a contract with Y. So what are the terms and conditions of that contract? Suppose they want to buy and sell goods. So what's the condition for buying? What's the condition for selling? All these are stated in the private law. Formal law is also called as common law. It finds expression in reported judgments of courts. So if a court gives out its judgment, that becomes a formal law. The last norm is professional ethics. So this term may not be very new to you at this point of time. So professional ethics is nothing but code of conduct. As I told you, every professional becomes a member of a body, an affiliate body. So every body of professionals publishes a professional code of conduct telling this is ethical and this is unethical. So this ethics should always be in line with the law of the state. So as the last point you learned in the previous slide, about professional ethics, also known as the professional code. So here you are going to learn what are the functions of this professional code, or why should you have a code. For example, um, all of you must be having a copy of the college calendar. It tells you the rules and regulations that you should follow as a student. For example, what time the college starts, when the exams will be conducted, how the semester exams will be conducted, the internal, external breakup, your passing minimum, your attendance percentage that you should have to qualify for writing the exam. All these are stated clearly in the rules and regulations. So how does it help you? It helps you to understand what is expected out of you as a student. In the same way, in what way the code of conduct that is laid down by the professional body helps the professional. That is what we are going to learn now. As to what are the functions of the codes. The first one is, when you have a proper regulation, it prevents interference by a third party. For example, the Indian Medical Association says that this is what is expected out of a doctor. It will be all exhaustive, meaning to say it will cover all the aspects that are expected out of a doctor. Therefore, nobody needs to, government or any other party need not interfere or cannot interfere and tell this is what is expected out of a doctor. So it keeps out other parties from the ambit. So that is the first function of a professional code. Second one, it tells you what you have to do and what you should not do. Say for example, as a lawyer, these are the certain things which are expected from you. You are not expected to do certain things. So it gives an all exhaustive list of the expectations from a particular professional. So it becomes easy for the person who follows. So he gets to know whether what he is doing is beyond his professional norms or within the professional norms. Thirdly, it aids in providing better service to the society. Like for example, if you have a code of conduct, it tells you whether what you're doing is right or wrong, and therefore you get to know whether you are doing your role or fulfilling the responsibilities of your role in a proper manner. And it also educates the professional and helps the professional to utilize the skill in the best interest of the people. See, it's not enough if you acquire the skill. That skill should be used or put to use for the best interest of the society. So that kind of clarity is provided by these professional codes. Then lastly, it helps to give guidelines to old as well as new members. New members get to learn from the experience of the old members, and it also gives clarification about professional conduct, then carrying out the duty with integrity, honesty, and the last important point is it helps you to avoid conflict of interest. Let me give an example for conflict of interest. Assume a particular litigation comes up in a court against a company stating that their product is not satisfactory. For example, a baby care product is not up to the mark. It has got some side effects on babies itself. Now the judge who is hearing this case is supposed to give his verdict in a very unbiased way. Suppose he gives a ruling in favor of the company and later takes up an important position in that company after retirement. This will amount to conflict of interest. So the professional code tells you what is conflict of interest. When such codes are explicitly documented, it becomes easy for the professional to know whether he is doing something that will be termed as conflict of interest. It is for this reason you have something called as cooling off period. For example, an IAS officer cannot take up positions in private companies immediately after his retirement. He is expected to have a few years as cooling off period, after which he can take up positions. This is because when he was in service, he should not have done something in favor of a particular company and with the intention of taking up employment in that company after retirement. So in order to avoid this only, these things are framed by the government. So this is the usefulness of the code of conduct that is laid on our professional jobs. The last topic is about the professional roles and responsibilities. In other words, what is expected of a professional? Actually, the professional is expected to supervise the work of his junior staff members, and they are also expected to possess good communication skills, multitasking abilities, and they are expected to possess ample amount of common sense. Why you should have good communication skills is because you need to supervise somebody means you have to you occupy, for example, in an organization, you occupy somewhere around upper middle level of an organization. So you have to act as a link between the top management and the junior staff members. So unless you have good communication skills, you may not be able to execute your task. Multitasking ability means ability to manage all the tasks simultaneously. This point of time, it might be interesting as girls for you to know that women are more good in multitasking than men. And lastly, I said they are also expected to possess a lot of common sense in dealing with everyday matters. So, in their first role, as that of supervisory role, they are expected to identify tasks. It means to find out what are the activities that are to be completed to achieve the goal. Then the professional is expected to assign the duties by dividing the human resources into different units or teams and by giving them various responsibilities. He is also expected to bring about a coordination among the teams that he has created. Next important role is to manage the change. You must have heard about this saying, nothing is permanent in this world except change. So what is the meaning of change management? See, an organization cannot remain the same way how it was started. You have to keep pace with the changing times, add new features to the product, explore new markets, explore new type of customers, then only you can survive in the market. You also have to keep the competitors in mind and try to swim out of difficult waters whenever required. So all these will be possible only when you keep changing yourself, you keep adapting yourself to the changing times. So what is the role of professional here? See, whenever a change is brought into an organization, people will start resisting. They will not accept change even if it is for their good. They will be very hesitant to accept any kind of change that takes place in the organization. So it is up to the professional to address that particular disturbance. He should assure that because of this change, they will not be affected in any way. This should help the organization to face the challenges, whether it is new market or new processes or new technologies. These kind of challenges, it is up to the professional to help the organization to overcome. They are also responsible for implementing policies relating to leadership. Then the next role is relating to decision making. Um, when it comes to making decisions, he is expected to coordinate with the heads of other departments also, and then take decisions regarding the operating functions of the organization. So this relates to day-to-day activities. Then he should also ensure that the decisions of one department should not negatively impact another. So what he does, even though it's good for his department, if it's going to affect other departments in the organization, he should think twice about it, because ultimately everybody is working towards the common objective of the organization. Then most importantly, he should exercise his power to reprimand. Reprimand means punish people who are indisciplined, and should also exercise his power to dismiss employees if he is coming in the way of working for the good of the organization. The last one is he is expected to have an exceptional leadership skills. Um, Through leadership skill, the manager offers on-the-job training. He gives the kind of support that is required for the employee, and also coaches his subordinates. Wherever they are lacking, he pulls them up. And he is also expected to motivate the employees towards the organizational objectives and encourage employees to be enthusiastic and independent. So this is the summation of the roles and responsibilities that is required of a professional. So in this presentation, we have learnt about the definitions of what is a profession, what is ethics, what is personal ethics, and what is professional ethics. And you also learnt about the general characteristics of a professional. If I am right, around 12 characteristics are there, and then more specifically the 6 characteristics of professional style, starting from being ethical, altruistic, etc., etc. Then you have a professional ethics, which is nothing but code of conduct that is expected out of a professional, and also the uh, functions of professional code refers to why you should have a professional code, in what way it helps a professional by having a code in practice. And the last one is about what are the roles and responsibilities expected out of a professional.